QIAxcel Advanced, an introduction to fully automated capillary electrophoresis. This is the QIAxcel Advanced. QIAxcel Advanced uses capillary electrophoresis for effortless DNA and RNA analysis. Capillary electrophoresis separates analytes within a gel when an electric field is applied. To run QIAxcel Advanced, you will need QIAxcel cartridges that are specific for your applications and the QX nitrogen cylinder. You can analyze between 12 and 96 samples per run. At the top of the QIAxcel Advanced, users have access to control the nitrogen pressure and also to exchange the purge filter in case it needs to be replaced. Insert the QIAxcel cartridge and the smart key. Load the samples and buffer tray onto the work table. Ensure that the QX nitrogen cylinder is fully tightened. Alternatively, you can connect an external nitrogen supply. The instrument requires nitrogen to apply the required system pressure. At the rear of the instrument, the nitrogen port can be used to supply external nitrogen. Load your samples, markers, and buffers. The smart key contains information about the cartridge ID, the number of available sample runs, and calibration runs that have been performed, the successful calibration with the QIAxcel Advanced, and the cartridge expiry date. The gel reservoir of the cartridge contains the gel which is used for the run. The gel is replaced for each new run. Nitrogen pressure is applied via the purge port, enabling the instrument to replace the used gel from the previous run with fresh gel for the next run. Analytes are loaded into the gel capillaries and separated by size under the application of an electric field. Unused cartridges should always be stored upright at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius in the packaging blister or in the covered cartridge stand to protect the gel in the cartridge from drying and from direct light. If the cartridge is stored in the QIAxcel Advanced, the instrument should always be switched on. Before using the cartridge, it is crucial to equilibrate the cartridge for at least 20 minutes to room temperature to ensure proper analyte separation. To equilibrate the cartridge, either place it into the cartridge stand, including wash buffer overlaid with mineral oil, or directly place the cartridge into the QIAxcel Advanced. Ensure that the buffer tray is loaded and wait. Incomplete temperature equilibration can cause run problems and potentially also lead to instrument damage. Always use the correct cartridge type together with the appropriate buffers and markers. Preparation of the QIAxcel Advanced prior to analyte analysis is easy. Just follow these steps. Make sure that sufficient nitrogen is available. If necessary, insert a new nitrogen cylinder into the QIAxcel Advanced. It is important to ensure the bottle is tightly inserted to prevent nitrogen leaks. After the cylinder is pierced by the instrument, make sure that it is fully tightened. Allow all reagents to equilibrate to room temperature. Fill the WP and WI positions of the buffer tray with 8 milliliters of QX wash buffer. Fill the buffer position with 18 milliliters of the appropriate separation buffer. Carefully add mineral oil to cover all 3 positions to prevent any evaporation. Add 2 milliliters of mineral oil to the positions WP and WI. Add 4 milliliters of mineral oil to the buffer position. It is crucial to stick to the correct buffers and volumes. Do not forget to overlay with mineral oil. Before inserting the cartridge into the QIAxcel Advanced, ensure the purge cap seal is removed. In addition, remove any residual gel or liquids from the capillaries and the purge port. To insert the cartridge door needs to be opened. Insert the cartridge with the description label facing toward the front of the QIAxcel Advanced. After that, insert the smart key into the smart key socket in either direction. The system will not recognize the cartridge if the smart key is not inserted. Once the smart key is inserted, the QIAxcel Advanced will latch the cartridge automatically if this option is selected in the configuration settings. The cartridge cannot be moved anymore once it is latched. The buffer tray can now be inserted. Every kit is delivered with an intensity calibration marker, which is required to perform the calibration run. It is necessary to calibrate every QIAxcel cartridge prior to the first sample analysis to normalize the intensity of each capillary. This corrects for natural intensity reading variations between the capillaries in the cartridge. If you run a cartridge on another QIAxcel Advanced, it needs to be calibrated again. A cartridge can be calibrated up to 5 times. Load 15 microliters of QX intensity calibration marker into a 0.2 milliliter 12-tube strip. Add a drop of mineral oil and insert the strip into the marker 2 position of the buffer tray. To launch the calibration run, go to the service environment of the QIAxcel ScreenGel software. Go to the calibration screen and click on Start Calibration. Once the calibration is complete, the calibration result, passed or failed, is displayed next to the gel image. You can then check the calibration details in the software. Once the calibration is successful, the QIAxcel cartridge can be used. If the calibration fails, we recommend performing a hot water purge, as described in the troubleshooting section of the user manual. The QIAxcel alignment marker is required in every run on every position to compensate for migration differences between the different capillaries. This prevents the smiley effect, which you would see on a classical agarose gel. There are different alignment markers available. Depending on the method you are using and fragment sizes being analyzed, select the appropriate alignment marker. For DNA applications, the alignment marker contains an upper and lower fragment of known size. For RNA applications, the RNA alignment marker that is included in the kit contains a single 15 base fragment. During the analysis, all fragments in different channels are aligned with each other based on the fragments of the alignment marker. To prepare the alignment marker, load 15 microliters of alignment marker into each tube of a QX 0.2 milliliter 12-tube strip. Add 1 drop of mineral oil to each tube and place the strip into the marker 1 position of the buffer tray. The alignment marker should be replaced after 50 runs or 3 days, whichever happens first. Using the alignment marker for a longer time can cause degradation of the contained fragments. The size marker is used to determine the fragment size and the concentration of the fragment of interest. The size marker needs to be loaded in 1 position per run. There are different size markers available. Depending on the method and alignment marker used and fragment sizes being analyzed, the appropriate size marker is selected. For optimal DNA size determination, select the size marker with fragments closest to the size of your DNA sample. After having performed a run with size marker included, it is possible to create and save a reference marker which can be applied in future runs when using the same cartridge and method without having to run the size marker again. The QIAxcel Fast Analysis Kit includes a ready-to-use size marker which should be used undiluted. For the other DNA kits, the size marker should be diluted depending on the method used. For low concentration methods, dilute the size marker to 10 nanograms per microliter, and for moderate concentration methods, dilute it to 30 nanograms per microliter. For high concentration methods, dilute the size marker to 50 nanograms per microliter. Dilute the size marker in QX DNA dilution buffer unless undiluted samples are used. If undiluted samples are used, we recommend dilution of the size marker in the same buffer as the samples. For each run, a volume of at least 10 microliters of size marker is required. For the samples, a minimum volume of 10 microliters with a minimum amount of 1 nanograms analyte is required. In addition, it is important to select the appropriate method type in the software depending on the concentration of the samples. To start a run, first switch on the QIAxcel Advanced and start the PC and ScreenGel software. Then click on the Load Position button and load the buffer tray with buffers and markers and the samples onto the holder. Please double-check that all positions are correctly loaded. Go to the Process environment and enter the required settings in the Process profile. Under Profile Definition, select the Process profile to determine the parameters of the run. You can select a default profile or create a customized process profile. On the Run Parameters screen, add the method to be used and select the sample rows to be analyzed. To define the size marker, right-click on the appropriate position. On the Analysis screen, you can select a default or customized analysis profile which will directly be applied right after the run. On the Marker screen, you can select a size marker and an alignment marker. On the Distribution Analysis screen, select which samples need to be analyzed with which profile. On the Report Export screen, you can select a default or a customized report export profile defining which data are included in the report and how they are visualized. On the Sample Selection screen, define the plate ID, which is also the later run file name. On the Sample Information screen, you can define sample names or import sample ID information. On the Run Check screen, you can get an overview of your settings, start the run, and check for any errors and warnings. If everything is fine, you can start the run. If changes are made in the parameters, the new profile can be saved. To analyze the data, go to the analysis environment and click on Load Experiment button to select and load the data. To visualize the samples on the gel image, select the positions in the left overview, right-click and select Visualize Selected Samples. You can also drag and drop samples into the gel image overview. The samples can then be seen in the gel image. By clicking the arrow on the right, more detailed information on the analysis, report, export, and peak calling profile can be found. Additional information can also be found under the Properties tab. To see the peak positions, go to the electropherogram view. Here the peaks can be seen in more detail. Under the reference marker table, when selecting the size marker position, the reference marker can be created and saved. If not yet done in the profile when starting the run, insert the size marker type and total concentration. Click on Apply to implement the size marker to obtain the concentrations and size calculations. If the calibration of the cartridge fails, or if one or more positions show high background, or in case you see ghost bands, this is usually due to dried gel which blocks the capillaries. In such cases, we recommend performing a hot water purge on the cartridge. To do so, first fill the cartridge stand with 12 milliliters of 90 degrees centigrade hot water and incubate the cartridge for 10 minutes. Repeat this process a second time after exchanging the hot water. This should soften the gel in the capillaries. Launch the QIAxcel Screen Gel software and click Load Position. Then remove the buffer tray from the buffer tray holder, place a soft tissue on the holder and click on Park Position. After the incubation, clean the capillaries and purge port before inserting the cartridge and Smart Key into the instrument. Click Latch if automatic latching is not active. Go to the service environment and open the Maintenance tab. Then click on Long Purge to start purging. The purging process automatically stops after 3 minutes. Then open the sample door and check the tissue. If all capillaries have generated homogeneous gel droplets, click Unlatch and remove the cartridge from the instrument. Carefully clean the end of the capillaries with a wet tissue. Then remove the tissue from the buffer tray holder and replace the buffer tray into the holder. Place the cartridge back into the QIAxcel Advanced and you can now perform a signal check if required. For signal check, load 15 microliters of QX intensity calibration marker into a QX color 0.2 milliliter 12-tube strip. Add a drop of mineral oil and insert the strip into the marker 2 position of the buffer tray. Go to the process environment. Under the Process Profile tab, select the cartridge type and the default Signal Check Process Profile. Go to the Run Check screen, enter the required information and click on Start Run. If a single peak is detected in all channels, the intensity calibration can be performed again. If one or more channels failed to detect a peak, or if there is no band or several bands present, please contact QIAGEN Technical Services. In case any support is required, prepare the following data before contacting QIAGEN Technical Services. 1. Troubleshooting folder. In case of communication issues or if a system check was performed, please create a troubleshooting folder by going to the service environment and go to the System Check screen and click on the Troubleshooting Folder button below. Select the start and end date. Select the test on the left side if one was performed. On the right side, always select Main Error IVD and Instrument. Click OK. Then go to File. Open the data directory and troubleshooting and then add the appropriate troubleshooting zip folder to your email. 2. Experimental data. In case you observe calibration or analysis issues, send us the appropriate experimental data. Go to Open Data Directory, Experiment, and select the data to be attached to the email. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you find it useful.
QIAGEN.
Sample to insight.